Every Wednesday we have fun. I gave you an assignment last week. I hope I remember to get to it, but I don't want to tease it just in case I don't remember. But let's get to the ACC schedule release was Monday night, and people were mad because people like to get mad online about the fact that it was during a Duke NC State basketball game. I didn't hear anybody from the Virginia media complaining about that. Maybe they didn't want to watch the basketball game, which is fine. But they dragged it out. They went week by week. They treated it like a big deal. I'm not sure why we have to treat it like a big deal. Do you watch any of the schedule release shows? Would there be a Cover 3 podcast live for the Big Ten schedule release?
No, we will handle it the same way that we handled the ACC schedule release on today's episode, which is to throw it up on screen if you're watching on YouTube, and everybody gets a chance to point some things out. Like we were able to roll through and see that while Miami, is one of those teams that has the interesting big game bye, or I guess more specifically, off week, big game, off week. The Miami Hurricanes also then have 7 games in a row. So it's like Florida off, Florida State off, Louisville. In theory, you are giving Mario Cristobal's team, you are giving Carson Beck's team, you are giving a reworked coaching staff enough opportunities to make sure they are playing their best football right there for the biggest games in the center of their schedule. At the same time, 7 games in a row is a lot. This year, when we saw 8 games in a row, we would start to fade teams in that 7th and 8th game, and we found some success with that. So now we are going to be asking Miami to finish the job against teams they are going to be favored against in their 5th, 6th, 7th game in a row. It just brings about one of my favorite rivalries in all of college sports. That's Miami football against expectations, Adam. I mean, expectations ain't exactly the Globetrotters, but
no.
I tell you what, the Hurricanes are closer to the Generals on that one. So, you've got that. You've got the North Carolina gets bye, Clemson bye. We've got a few other interesting scheduling quirks to take a look at. We saw who did not end up getting Notre Dame on their schedule, because I think Notre Dame on the schedule in 2025, we talk about that differently than we might have in other seasons, based on what they've got coming back from a team that was the national runner-up.
Right.
And then my favorite observation, as we were talking about it live, we've got a great audience that tunes in. They offer commentary in the chat. And somebody said, who did Syracuse piss off? And I was able to respond. I said, I'll tell you what happened. It's called The Bill is Due. Because when you have the easiest conference draw of any team in the ACC in 2024, guess what? All those teams that you avoid, they're going to be back on for 2025. So, we will do the Big Ten. We'll do the SEC. Like all of these things are the kinds of topics that we would not do a live instant reaction show to, but certainly dedicate a solid, 8 to 10 minutes on the Cover 3 podcast.
All right. That's Chip Patterson. I am Adam Gold. Here's the thing. I talked about this yesterday, and I would never watch a schedule release show, and I think from our conversations, I am very much into the schedule. It is a topic that fascinates me. I think the ACC as a league has overscheduled in the non-conference to the point that it hurts. It doesn't help. Again, this is not a slam. What Indiana proved this past year was that your non-conference schedule really doesn't matter. Michigan proved it the year before. Doesn't matter. It's really it's your schedule, the entirety of your schedule, and also the landscape that matters the most. So I don't understand why Syracuse is playing Tennessee. I don't even care. I don't want to talk about that, but what purpose does that serve Syracuse? Man, go schedule Miami of Ohio and beat them. Don't play Tennessee. Now let me just.
Let me just go ahead and throw it back to you, because sure. I know exactly where Fran Brown's going to come at this.
Okay.
They think they can beat Tennessee.
Okay, good. then do it.
And that's the thing is, and then if you beat Tennessee, now you've got that in your pocket and you've totally changed the stakes of winning. Because my pushback for the Indiana example is, well, Indiana also had to be good enough to win all those other games.
They were good.
You need to be right. You if you're Michigan, say you've got to be good enough to go and beat all those other opponents you've got to be able to go and win those other games. And I think that for Syracuse, especially under Fran Brown, they are going to take an approach where we're going to send a message to our locker room that we can beat Tennessee. And I'll tell Tennessee's beatable. Like Tennessee can be Syracuse. The Syracuse team that came back from 21 down against Miami should look itself in won 10 games this year, should be able to look in the mirror and say, yeah, we can beat Tennessee. So yeah, I don't mind it. Okay.
But when Syracuse doesn't beat Tennessee and all of these other games go off, like the ACC's got 8 high-profile games in week 1. And when the ACC goes 2-6 in those games, the narrative will have been set.
So while Jim Phillips and the league office and like certain individuals maybe within the conference are going to be concerned about that, I don't think in 2025 anybody should be caring about anyone other than their own school and their own university.
Sure.
I don't think it is the responsibility of these individual athletic departments and these coaches to try and make sure the ACC saves face. Everybody, this is dog eat dog, like we are Mad Max, end of the universe with this era of college football, and like whatever you need to do to get yourself some water. And you need to only be concerned about your team, your program. And so you're correct in the way that it's going to look, the way the conversation is going to be set, and what it's going to mean moving forward. But I just think that those are I think they are so nebulous and soft factors that any athletic director or coach should not be concerned about.
Chip Patterson is joining us here. He is always my cold water when I get off of my tangents about things. But here's what I do like, and I don't know how the league did this, whether it was a strict rotation, that there's no maneuvering of schedules to create something, which I would argue they should do. My argument has always been you should manufacture as best you can the schedules that most benefit the league. And like last year, SMU really didn't have a challenging non-conference schedule. That was what was used against them. That was better than people thought, because I think it was Pitt that they beat when Pitt was undefeated.
Correct.
They beat a Duke team that ultimately won 9 games. Frankly, should have lost that game, but neither here nor there. But if you look at the football brands right now, every one of them has a pretty challenging conference schedule. You at least play at least 3 of the other theoretically good teams. Florida State's schedule might be too good for them. You're going to open the season against Alabama. Nice. And if Florida's better, that's two obviously non-conference games that are pretty special. But they got Miami, Pitt, they're at Clemson, Virginia Tech. At NC State, might not be all that easy for Florida State. Miami, other than Notre Dame, you've also got another game against Florida. Florida State, Louisville, SMU, Virginia Tech, Pitt. All of those teams, Clemson's schedule is also good within the league. Plus, you've got LSU and South Carolina on your schedule. So the conference schedule is what I'm getting at. All the good teams pretty much play other good teams. That has to happen.
Well, yeah, I mean, so the thing that I thought the ACC was smart about, because frankly, I don't like expanded conferences.
No, terrible.
My biggest issue with them is that it does create this imbalance in schedules where now conference championships are, some percentage quality, but then also some percentage what kind of schedule draw you get. That's not an equitable a champion. But when before they added Cal, Stanford, and SMU, when they had the 3-5-5 model, and were guaranteeing that you would play every single team 2 times in a 4-year period,
right,
once every 2 years, and everybody would see each other, and you had your 3 protecteds. Like, the math of all that actually made sense. I really, really liked the way that they were approaching it. That has been thrown out the window with the addition of Cal, Stanford, and SMU. But what I thought the league did that was smart was they didn't try to pigeonhole themselves into saying everyone has to have 3 protected rivalries.
Right.
So what I think you are seeing is the fact that these name brands are rivals with each other. That the league has said Florida State is going to play Clemson and Miami every single year.
Good.
Like when you start to build things out from there, now you start to create a situation where, whether it's from interest, like games that are going to pop nationally, or also from competitiveness, you are going to, whether you mean to or not, manufacture games between your best teams, because those best teams also happen to be traditional rivals.
I love that. That is because what I've always said about this is that as a commissioner, I would try to create the most attractive television package. Right? That's what I would do. I think your football is more valuable if you're giving them good games. No offense to Boston College or the University of Virginia or Cal. No offense to them, but they don't move the needle. The needle is moved by the bigger teams hopefully playing each other. Now we got to get Virginia Tech on board with good football. Maybe we're going to approach that return into this. I'd love to see Georgia Tech take another step from last year. If the 6 or 7 football playing schools can do their thing, then at least maybe the ACC will have a more attractive TV property.
Maybe. Maybe it's a zero-sum game. I mean, there's only but so many slots at noon, 3:30, and 7:30, and it's
right.
Like you can start to fill them out pretty quickly
before play a 9:30 game.
Yeah, look, there is some of this, the way the schedule breaks. You also have to include the fact that you are going to be getting on a plane, flying through the middle of the night, arriving back on campus 7 a.m. And if you were able to sleep on the plane, great. If not, you haven't slept. There's a lot of that has to be taken into consideration with the way that these schedules break out.
Sure.
So, we already knew all of the opponents. We only learned the date and orders in which they fall.
You did.
So that's why
I didn't.
What?
You knew all the opponents. I didn't.
You could have.
Yeah, I could have, but I have too many things going on, Chip.
That is readily available.
Day to day. I don't even know what's going to happen tomorrow. I have no idea. Tomorrow will be a complete surprise to me. Have you ever? My favorite Adam Sandler movie, and I don't even like Adam Sandler. 50 First Dates. The movie with Drew Barrymore.
I'm familiar. I'm stunned that of Adam Sandler's entire library, this is the one you're grabbing. But
it's the only one I really like.
I'm not going to yuck your yum.
It's the only one I really like. The concept is beautiful. Every day is like the first day that they've met. So I know Tom Fornelli wrote about this at CBSSports.com, but I want your take on it. Has the Big Ten overtaken the SEC as the premier football conference?
No.
Thank you.
And that's what Tom said too.
Right.
In the piece.
But that was the prevailing thought because there were 4 teams, right?
4 teams instead of 3.
Right. And they got 2 to the Final Four.
And they got 3 into the final AP top 5.
Okay, yes.
The idea that you had 3 of the top 5. You had more in the top 10 when you get to Indiana as well. What has happened is, number one, Michigan's gotten it together. And to bring it back local, Michigan getting it together is what the ACC would see if Miami really got it together.
Right.
When you get it together, now all of a sudden you've provided the foil to Florida State. Michigan gets it together, now you've got the foil to Ohio State. You've got other programs like Penn State, which are now starting to operate at such a high level of consistency over the course of the last 4 to 5 years. I think that the SEC still wins on the recruiting trail if we go top to bottom. I think the SEC still wins at the NFL draft when we talk about the talent that's coming out. If you want to say the players are better top to bottom at the SEC, I agree with you. When we discussed Tom's column on the Cover 3 podcast, Bud Elliott brought up a good point. He said, I wonder if you have, and this is like, it's great January conversation because it's a little bit reckless. It's loosely based on facts, mostly anecdotal. But he said, I wonder if the culture is better at Big Ten teams. And this was the argument that he made, that the SEC has gotten so transactional, so brazenly and abundantly transactional with basically 6-month contracts at a lot of these schools. And a lot of these guys are jumping between SEC schools. And it's gotten so cold that when you get into a season and when you get deep into a season and you face a little bit of adversity, we hear about NIL-related infighting. We hear about the jealousy. We hear about the problems in the locker rooms that are somewhat stemming from our current environment. And the Big Ten, granted, has upped its NIL game. And now, what's it, Shane Gillis on ESPN with this like, hey, ain't it funny that now it's legal to pay players? SEC doesn't run everything anymore. Like it's just like I think that there is something to be said for that, but there might also be something to be said with the fact that some of those schools in the Big Ten still treat it like school, and that some of those communities in the Big Ten still have that feel of the traditional, like, we are a family, we're in this together. And so, SEC still has better players. Those better players did not perform better than the Big Ten schools did this year. There's a lot of different things to point at. The quarterback play in the SEC was historically down. Yeah. I think the quarterback play in the SEC will be better in 2025 and beyond.
I think the difference between the two leagues is that this year, and for whatever it's worth, I thought at the top, the Big Ten was every bit as good as the SEC. I thought the middle of the SEC and even towards the bottom, because it's a 16-team league, there were more teams that could beat the good teams than there were in the Big Ten. And I thought that in some ways skewed records, but that's where I thought the difference was in the middle of the league, that if you went on the road or even at home, because we saw that at home, you could take an L. And in the Big Ten, there were probably only, maybe 2 teams outside the top 4 that could really give you a fight.
So that would be Illinois and who? Michigan?
Yeah, but to be honest, I don't even put Michigan. Probably Illinois. Yeah, probably.
Because I tell you what really brings the conversation up is the fact that Jalen Milroe and Ryan Williams and a bunch of NFL draft picks played in that bowl game and could not score more than 13 points against the Michigan defense that was missing 3 NFL opt-out draft picks. And that South Carolina, with all of its hype from its amazing, we got screwed out of the playoff season, couldn't beat Illinois. Yeah, so when Illinois beats South Carolina and Michigan beats Alabama and everybody pretty much lined it up, suited up, and cared, that was when we had a little bit of okay, let's at least dive into this. Let's at least talk about this. And please, go check it out on CBSSports.com. But the final note that Tom said was the gap has never been closer. The SEC is still number 1, but the gap has never been closer. The top-end schools are right there. The middle pack is getting better. There is a bottom tier of the Big Ten that is way lower than the bottom tier for the SEC. But in general, that gap is small. Now, the gap between those two and everybody else, that's getting a little bit larger. But that's obviously something that the ACC and the Big 12 are hoping to address moving forward.
All right, let me this was the assignment from last week. I asked you to pick who would be the PGA Tour Player of the Year this year. We are now, this is like, I think we've seen already 4 official PGA Tour events. Pebble Beach this week, very much looking forward to it. It's an elevated event, which means we're going to see all the stars. You got to pick PGA Tour Player of the Year?
Do you remember who I suggested last week?
I don't remember. You said so. You made
homemade ravioli.
Yeah, who is that, by the way?
Homemade ravioli is the only person that's taken down Scotty Scheffler.
Okay, so he had food poisoning.
No. It was how he punctured his hand.
Oh, is that it? Okay, I completely missed the joke. Do you remember how much I played along?
Okay, so Scotty Scheffler punctures his hand on Christmas Day making homemade ravioli.
Oh, wow.
So I figured a homemade ravioli, and it was homemade ravioli, and the Louisville Police Department are the only things I've seen really takes, and Scotty Scheffler beating himself at Pinehurst #2. The only things I've seen beat Scotty Scheffler are the Louisville Police Department, Pinehurst #2, and homemade ravioli. Scotty Scheffler is my pick for PGA Tour Player of the Year because I don't think anybody's going to touch Scotty out there. Shane Lowry played Spyglass yesterday, walked off the course, told reporters that Scotty was right behind him, and based on what he could tell, it looked like Scotty was 6 under through 6. I just think it's what you do. You know, you start off, you look at your card at FanDuel Sportsbook where you can make every moment more, and you buy him pre-flop because the price ain't going to get better. He is not going to win every single week,
right?
But he is absolutely deserving of that front runner status.
All right, give me a first time major winner this year.
And all right, will you give me the venues again?
I'm not. I know we're at Quail Hollow for the PGA. I think the Masters is at Augusta National this year. We're Oakmont, right, for the U.S. Open.
Oh, we're not at St. Andrews, right?
No, St. Andrews. We're at Royal Portrush.
I tell you what. So I was doing some digging.
All right,
and everybody has kind of forgotten about someone we've just been waiting for him to put it all together at a major championship. And over there on the DP World Tour, Tommy Ladd's playing some good golf.
Tommy Fleetwood. It's a good first-time major winner. I got somebody else.
Yeah, the player who everyone jumped on and put so many expectations on. He falls off the radar. I could maybe see him catching one of those Gary Woodland type wins.
Oh boy.
You know?
Wow. If Rory McIlroy doesn't win all 4 majors, if he doesn't, and I'm holding out hope that he will, Sungjae Im wins a major.
Ooh, I like Sungjae.
Yeah. He wins a major. If Rory doesn't win all 4, and if Rory wins the Masters, he's getting the next. He's getting the other 3.
So who else would be our
I watched the TGL. I'm completely hooked now. I'm ready for Rory's season.
So, who else would be in the mix for that? Let's see, Cantlay, maybe.
Yeah, I can't root for him.
I'm not asking about because
I can't.
Obviously, Scotty's got majors. Xander's got majors. Rory, Colin, Rahm, Hideki.
Who's that?
JT.
I haven't seen John Rahm play golf in a year and a half.
What I have right now are the Data Golf player rankings pulled up, and basically it looks like most of our top 10 already has a major in the bag, and so that's where the conversation is. A Sungjae Im. That's what the conversation is. A Patrick Cantlay, Tommy Fleetwood, Ludwig Oberg.
Yeah, that would be a guy.
Then you just drop into the like. I mean, I don't think Taylor Pendrith is winning a major championship.
He is not.
He's playing great statistical golf, but I do not think Taylor Pendrith is winning a major championship.
Favored to make the next President's Cup roster as well. Chip Patterson.
Oh, and I think Vic is still lost. I don't think that he's got it right now. Victor Hovland.
Oh no, he's probably changed swing coaches 4 times. Chip Patterson, CBSSports.com, Cover 3 podcast moderator. Homemade. Now I get the homemade ravioli joke. I'm embarrassed I didn't know that. But, like I said, I don't know what happened. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. I'm that way. 51st Dates. Go watch the movie. I'll talk to you later.
Sounds good. Y'all be well.